with Genesis chapter 1, Bereshit. And so it says, God created the heavens and the earth. And the Hebrew, we can look at it in two ways. That in the beginning, Bereshit, created, bara, the heavens and the earth. That's how we look at it. We would look at it that way if we read it directly from the Hebrew in that way too. But it also is that in the beginning created God, because it goes Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning created God. And when I say this, it's not that the beginning created God. In the beginning, God created the concept of what God is. And it goes on to show us, to tell us what he does. He created the heavens and the earth. Hashamayim va'eretz. Right? The heavens and the earth. And what's interesting here is when we look at it, we see that it says the earth was unformed. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God, the heavens and the earth. So the concept of God and the concept of heaven and earth. Okay? But as yet, nothing was formed. But God put it together. He thought about it. He meticulously put it together. And so it was unformed and it was void of life, void of construction yet, right? And it says, darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water. And in the Hebrew, the face of the deep, water really is the deep of the darkness of space and and over the water, the beginning of where God would begin his creating. In Kabbalah, they call it Zimzum, where God had to restrict himself from this area because he was already there. He was everywhere. But in order to start his creating, he had to take himself out of an area, and then he sent light forth, creation into the center of that, in the center of that void. Okay, and that's why the earth wasn't formed, and that's why there was void and darkness. Okay, because God had withdrew himself from there, and so there was no. So then God goes on to say, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So there was evening and there was morning one day. And when we take a look at light, it's, as the rabbis describe, it's the light of Messiah. It's the light that we will get after the 1,000-year reign too, when we enter the world to come, the 8th day, something we were talking about on Thursday. The 8th day, a supernatural day. There's only 7 days in a week, right? So an 8th day means it's a supernatural day. So for Sukkot, we have 7 days, but then we have an 8th day that's separated called Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day. And on that day, we rejoice in the Torah, Simchat Torah. And we roll back the Torah scroll to its beginning. And here's the beginning. There's the beginning right there that God is going to bring us back to. That when he rolls back the earth and the sky and everything, he's rolling it back to a new beginning. To the beginning of where we started, in the Garden of Eden, right? In the beginning, God created. And what's interesting, too, is that the words he used have been kind of stolen by magicians and so forth like that, but it's Hebrew, Ra Kadabra, which means, let it be as I have said. So, and you have the first day, the evening, and the morning. And this is how we count days in Judaism. You know, it's the new day starts in the evening. and it goes to the next evening, and so forth and so on. That's why we've counted days for thousands of years. And I know the world today counts it and solar away, but first started this out. And so, the spirit of Messiah was the light in the beginning. God said, "Let there be light." God already seen, he knew what was already going to happen, and he had put in place a plan. That's why in the beginning the Messiah was chosen. If we read the book of Enoch, the first book, the only real book of Enoch, whether it's written by him or not, the thing is that it's older than any Bible books. Um, and in it, it talks about before God created, he chose for himself a Messiah, and one who would save the earth, save the people on the earth from the very beginning, chosen from the very beginning. And it was granted to him to create, was given wisdom and knowledge and understanding, create God's plan, God's decree and stuff like that. In John chapter 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and through him everything was created." And the Word, it can be used synonymously with wisdom, okay, which it generally is. Wisdom is a feminine word in Hebrew, but we read in Proverbs 8 that wisdom was the beginning of God's way, beginning of his creation. And that's something we need to look at too, because it's important we understand where John is coming from. Because not only is Genesis chapter 1 and so forth, but he's also using Proverbs. Boy, Psalm's a long book. Here we go. He's also looking at Proverbs chapter 8. I remember where it's at here. There it is. 22. Adonai made me, and the Hebrew says, created me as the beginning of his first of his ancient works. In essence, in the beginning, God chose me as the beginning of his way. He chose me. I was appointed before the world, before the start, before the earth's beginnings. When I was brought forth, there were no ocean depths, no springs brimming with water. I was brought forth before the hills, before the mountains had settled in place. He had not yet made the earth, the fields, or even the earth's first grains of dust. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew the horizon circle on the deep, when he set the skies above in place, when the fountains of the deep poured forth, when he prescribed boundaries for the sea, so that its water would not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth, I was with him as someone he could trust. For me, every day was pure delight, as I played in his presence all the time, playing everywhere on his earth and delighting to be with humankind. Therefore, children, listen to me. Happy are those who keep my ways. Hear instruction and grow wise. Do not refuse it. How happy the person who listens to me, who watches daily at my gates and waits outside my doors. For he who finds me finds life and obtains the favor of Adonai. Isn't that what Yeshua did? Through what he did for us, we can now we can find life in him and obtain favor from Adonai. But he who misses me harms himself. All who hate me love death. That's a very profound picture of Yeshua, and I do believe it's the same one that John the Apostle was referring to, not just chapter 1, but Proverbs chapter 8. when he's talking about in the beginning was God. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And without nothing came into being. And it's a history right there. So remember, we can't go back here and say, there's Yeshua in here. Yeah, his name wasn't Yeshua at that time, though. Yeshua was given his name because of his purpose that God sent him. Do you guys realize that Yeshua is an apostle of God? He's a shaliach, a sent one, the greatest sent one. I mean, we have Noah, who was a sent one too, who preached, built, warning the people, right? So he was a sent one too. And then we have Moses. We have Abraham, who was a sent one. He was sent to the land, to the promised land, right? But before he left, he already knew God. And he preached the good news. He taught the good news of turn to God. Repent from your sins, from your idolatry. Turn to the one true God. And it says when he left that he brought thousands of souls that he had made with him. What that means is that people that he had shown the truth to, and they were convinced that God was real, and they followed him. In a sense, he was probably the greatest rep before Yeshua, master teacher. And then we had Moses, who literally was sent, go, free your people, right? And he was reluctant. He was reluctant, like, me? Yeah, who am I, that you would send me? But he was born for the purpose. There are no mistakes. And I like what my stepdad brought out too about the 4 rivers in the garden. How many letters in holy? 4. How many letters in the 4-letter name of God? 4. How many rivers coming out of Eden? 4. It's not valleys going into Jerusalem. Yeah, there's 4. There's so 4 is a prominent number. It's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence. To be honest with you, there are no coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences, because God isn't a coincidence. Everything that happens, everything that goes on is a purpose, a reason.
I think of it this way too. How many prophets are sent ones before Yeshua? We had Noah, we had Abraham, we had Moses, we had Yeshua. We had 4.
Mm-hmm.
And also think of it this way: what was the thing that kept on growing throughout them? So Noah had faith, but he didn't have perfect faith. Abraham had faith, but he didn't have perfect faith. Even Moses didn't have perfect faith. You see that in Vahet Canaan. He didn't have perfect faith. He was actually forbidden from going into the land because of that. But Yeshua had so much faith that he said, okay, whatever happens, I'm going to do it, even if it means me dying right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that there was a point there where he didn't know. It was all in God's hands. He could die, and he resurrected.
Right. And he even admitted that he doesn't know the time or hour that he's going to come back. Only the Father does, which is a mystery, because if everybody says he's God, then why would he say that he doesn't even know? Only God knows, I mean, just something to chew on,
And so that says, if you have perfect faith, anything is possible.
Yeah. Anything is possible, perfect faith. Right. And that's the interesting thing too, is that on the 4th day, what was created? The sun, moon, and stars, right? In a physical way for us, right? So we have the light of the Messiah in the beginning. Then God creates an artificial light, in a way, a physical light called the sun and the moon, right? And it's interesting, the story of the sun and the moon. The stars shine out there, but there's something different about the moon. The moon does not produce its own light. And 2, we don't produce our own light either. We can't produce our own light. So what does the moon do? It reflects the light of the sun to the earth, right? And so when we walk in God's ways, when we walk in his Torah, and we believe what has happened with Yeshua, what he's done for us, he says, let our lights shine, right? Well, we can't produce our own light, but we can reflect that light, right? So we reflect that light. And it's reflected to a light that, for the earth which is in darkness even now and getting worse. But that light is for us to, and it even goes on to say that it's Israel's purpose to be a light to the nations. And those of the Gentiles who take hold and join Israel are part of that light. It's like at Hanukkah, we have the Hanukkah, we have 8 days we celebrate it, and there's 8 candlesticks on it, but there's also a 9th one that sits above the others. And it's called the Shamash, or servant candle, right? You can't light the candles by themselves. You have to use that light to light the candles. And you always light the new one first, right? So that's our job, is as we have light, then we pass it on to the next, the new person, and so forth and so on, and let it grow. So in the beginning, we have the light of Messiah. And on the 4th day, which is interesting, is that when God told Abraham to take Isaac up to Mount Moriah and offer him up, how many days, on what day is it that Abraham offered him? The 4th day. Okay, there's this a lot of 4s in here, right? And so what's interesting too is, what day did Yeshua come? If 1,000 years are a day is as 1,000 years to God, what year did Messiah come? What day did he come? The 4th day, the light, right? Okay, 4,000th year. And then what's interesting too is that the wedding in Cana, he arrived on what day? Took him 4 days to get there, right? He didn't leave right away, but he got there on the 4th day. The wedding, the light, and the wine of creation that he gave to the people. Remember, his mother asked him that, they're out of wine, and Yeshua was like, it's not my time yet. But he was a good Jewish son, and he did what his mother wanted, and they got to taste the wine that's reserved for the world to come, for the wedding feast of Messiah and his people.
Like it not at all.
You probably will like it. It's not going to be like regular wine. It's going to be
I
perfect.
think I like it anyway. 'Cause it's the name. Wine.
Yayin. That's the Hebrew word, yayin.
If you made it like just for me, I'd take a glug.
And don't worry, Dawson. You drink wine anyway.
I know he does.
No. So,
Good man.
Yeah.
Good man.
so, and as we go through this, we see that, man falls. Adam and Eve disobey God, and mankind is kicked out of the garden. Have Adam and Eve have children, have sons and daughters. They have 2 sons in the beginning, Cain and Abel, Canaan and Hevel, which is interesting because according to Jewish tradition, they were twins. Okay. So we have twins again in the beginning. And
You're having another pair of twins?
no.
Yeah, you don't want that relationship. That's sibling
And
rivalry.
yeah, and so we see, what's interesting is that we don't, evil starts to flow out, and just like the adversary is jealous of God for being God and wants to be like him, he gets jealous of his brother. Why? Because it says that where is it here? That Cain brought an offering to Adonai from the produce of the soil, and Hevel brought from the firstborn of the sheep. What is it that God asks Israel to do after they leave Egypt? Give him the firstborn, right? So, what is the mystery here? Why didn't God accept Cain's offering? Because it doesn't say the first fruit of his labors, but just whatever, you know. But Hevel brought the firstborn of his sheep and the fat.
See, now, and the way I get it is that Cain thought to himself, well, I'm not going to give him the first. The first isn't the best. And in his mind, he took the best fruit and gave it to God. But that kind of goes against what God said. You know,
Because when we give him the first, then he blesses us even more.
exactly.
And that's what God wanted. Now, he didn't instruct him that he had to do that. God was trying to teach him something, right? Trying to teach him. Because God doesn't want the best, in essence. He wants the first, and then he will bless us with the best.
And part of that is this willfulness, right?
Yeah, being willing to give.
The
Yeah.
same willfulness in Cain goes and says, his brother.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we continue on. Adam has another son that in the Hebrew says a son in the image of God, Shet or Seth. And so Seth is different from his brothers. He walks with God. And he has sons and daughters too. And because of what Cain did, Cain had left the area, gone to an area, it says east, wandering. And if you go east of Israel, you got desert and all that kind of stuff out that way, right? And that's where Cain was. But Seth lived close to the Garden of Eden. He didn't leave that land. He raised his children, and as they were raised, the two separate people were separate. You had the children of Cain who were continuing to be evil. But the children of Seth were living in the light. They were learning and obeying God and walking in his ways and stuff. But eventually, as the populations grew, pretty soon they came upon each other. And the children of Seth were known as the children of God. Why? Because they obeyed God, walked in his ways. But they seen the daughters of Cain, of man, they're no different than us. So why can't we take them as our wives? And we see what happens. That's why God forbids Israel to take wives for their sons or even husbands for their sons from the idolatrous nations around them. Because what happens? They begin to take on the same things that the children of Cain were doing. They began to, and the Nephilim is actually a word that can mean a tyrant or dictator in today's language, who enslaves other human beings. That's why it says before the flood and after the flood they were there. They weren't a special breed of people. They weren't created because of angels and humans coming together, because angels can't. They weren't created to do that. Okay? Even the demon spirits who fell, who rejected God, cannot do that. They are neither male nor female. Okay? They lack those properties. And so the children of Seth, who were the children of God, began to intermarry, and pretty soon the whole world was evil. And during that time, Noah was born. And Noah, his name means restful, and his dad Lamech says, "This one will comfort us in our labor. He will take away the curse that God put on the ground." Okay? Interesting, because he did. Except that God had to destroy the world, and he saved those 8. He was a light. His children followed him. His sons followed him. His sons' wives followed him. His wife followed him. And they were saved. And yet they taught. They talked to the people as they're building this ship. You know, it took them, 120 years to build this ship, right? In all that time, mankind could have repented and believed him and turned away. There could have been many more people that joined them, right? And yet there wasn't. Because man's heart was continually evil, thinking evil. Kind of like what we have going on today. Noah wasn't weak. He wasn't any less righteous than Abraham. It says that he, according to tradition, and even in the New Testament, it says that he did preach for 120 years and didn't get a convert. And Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, he did the same thing too. He didn't get a convert either, right? And that's the evil that's in the human mind. And it says also, not only did humankind pervert its way, but it perverted the way of even all the animals. So, as we go this week, think of this about yourself. You're a light. You're a light that's reflecting the light of Messiah. So part of that is making sure we're clean, we're nice and shiny, and we're, not that we're perfect. We're going to have blemishes on there, but we can still, don't hide our light, right? Walk in his light that he has given us. We don't have all the light, but we have the light that he gives us for what we need. And we can reflect that. That's enough. That light is enough to be reflected. So, bow your heads for the priestly blessing. Our God and God of our fathers, bless us with a threefold blessing in the Torah written by the hand of Moses, your servant, and pronounced by Aharon and his sons, the priests, your holy people, as it is said. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May it be your will. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May it be your will. May the Lord turn his face toward you and grant you peace. May it be your will. Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. God bless you. Have a great rest of Sabbath and a great week this week. This week, Tuesday night, Torah Club at 7. We'll be on the next book, and study of the sent ones, the apostles of Yeshua. Wednesday night will be our Wednesday night study for essential principles of the Jewish Christian beginnings. Not saying that right, but by D. Thomas Lancaster. Wonderful book so far. I really enjoy it. So just have a great week, and thanks for coming. So Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbat.